back to work on the NASCAR swap Miata build. It's time to make some good forward progress on this thing. Make it start to look like a car again. We've been doing a lot of fab work, a lot of chassis fab work, which is time consuming and thought requiring. But we got our frame rails done for the most part. We've got our motor plate mount situated, even our mid plate mount fully welded in. So the drivetrain is in place. It is in its final resting spot, as long as nothing changes, you know. The transmission mount we've still got to do, but other than that, the engine, drivetrain fully in place, frame rails welded in, transmission tunnel structure done. Even the cage boxes are welded in, anti-intrusion bars. We've pretty much got the entire structure of the car squared away to where we've actually got a car. But there is one caveat. At the moment, it's not really a car because it is stranded on the lift here, which it has been for quite some time. And I think the first thing we should do is change that. We've got everything we need between these boxes and some parts we're gonna borrow from some other projects. We will replace, I promise. We will replace them, but between all of that, we've got everything we need to make this a full car again and push it out into the sunlight. There's just something about taking a car that you've been working on under artificial light in a shop for a long time and seeing it out in the sun that it just gives you an entirely different perspective. So while we do have a mountain of fab work to do, I want to start there. Get our parts together and start putting it together and see what this thing looks like as a proper car again. I'm excited. And then we'll move on from there. We got a lot. We got a unending list. Well, hopefully ending, because that means we finished the build. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. All right, guys, before we get too deep into the thick of it, past that point of no return, I want to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Brooklyn Bedding. Now, this is a big one for me because, well, we all have our different things, right? I know people who will only get the nicest version of this kind of thing, but only get the cheapest of this, and then it's flip-flop for somebody else I know. And I think something everyone, just kind of a universal rule, is that you gotta have a good quality mattress because sleep is so important. I mean, we spend, what, a quarter of our life sleeping. And I know for myself personally, when I'm sleeping good, my whole life is better. I'm happier, I'm more focused, I have more energy, obviously. Everything is better. And I have tried so many different mattresses over the years. Tried more expensive mattresses, I've tried the cheapest ones, I've dabbled all the way across the board, and I'm always looking for the best value. Where am I getting the most for my money? And Brooklyn Bedding, I feel like, nails that on the head. They are insanely high quality mattresses, designed and assembled in their Arizona factory, and shipped from there for free within the US as well. It's a big thing. I'm a big fan of convenience, 120 night sleep trial along with a limited lifetime warranty. They're also fiberglass free. That's a big thing. I didn't even realize that apparently a lot of mattresses have fiberglass in them. I started looking into it, and I can't stand messing with fiberglass. I will not put header wrap on a car because it's fiberglass. If you mess with it, you know. Brooklyn Bedding, fiberglass free. Now, I got the Aurora Luxe cooling mattress because I am a hot sleeper. Having a mattress that helps keep me cool at night where I'm not waking up sweaty and feeling gross to start my day, that alone has been a game changer. But the biggest thing for me is it was always seemingly impossible to find a mattress that felt comfortable, where I was able to fall asleep easily, but then I also was supportive and I didn't feel sore in the morning. And for my last mattress, didn't feel very comfortable, but I was hoping it, was at least keeping me from being sore. I've been super sore lately, right? And I thought it was because I was just hustling out here. I was kind of proud of myself. And man, I'm working hard, but as it turns out, it was the mattress. Because when I got my Brooklyn Bedding mattress and started sleeping on it, wasn't sore in the morning, doing the same work. So as it turns out, I could be working harder, apparently. I feel a little guilty now, thinking I was running it to the max, but I was not. Because now I wake up not sore, but it's also the most sleeping on a cloud comfortable mattress I've had. So anyway, I could go on and on. Big fan. Big fan of my Brooklyn Bedding mattress. If you're interested, if you're looking for a mattress, you're interested in trying it out for yourself, go to brooklynbedding.com and use my code TaylorA with 2 R's to get 30% off your order. So you can also use the QR code, which will be somewhere around here. Oh, far, rain. Yeah, I don't know if you can notice the increase in my energy, but man, it feels good to sleep good. So trying to put this energy to good use. We got a lot to do to make this thing a car again. So let's put it to work. brooklynbedding.com, TaylorA, 2 R's, 30% off. Check it out. Let's get to it. Whew, man, I've been waiting a long time for this day. The Miata is finally getting full race car suspension. Every single piece of the suspension is going to be changed. Now, some of you might find this surprising, but this car has actually never had race car suspension on it. It's pretty much always had more or less upgraded stock suspension. A little more adjustment, a little bit tighter, but you know, polyurethane bushings, you can see that's not supposed to be like that. This one's shredding apart. The knuckles pushed its way forward. These bushings have a lot of deflection, so your alignment is really only your alignment so long as you're not putting load through it, you know? So it's something that's really limited the car for a long time, and without this, really none of these other upgrades would be worthwhile, you know? This thing makes 830 horsepower, which is great, and there were times where we were on good surfaces and we could use that, but there's a lot of times where we just didn't have enough grip and couldn't put any more grip in the car because our adjustment window was so small. Same with the amount of angle. We were very limited on angle, which made it hard to drive the car certain ways to compete with guys in cars like my Vet here, which has tons of angle. So this is actually the same company, Just Engineering, these kits, as what I ended up going with on the Vet. Now, I've been absolutely over the moon with it on that car. And not only that, but they are the first and only people to show love to the Miata chassis in the sense of building, designing, developing an entire rear grip kit. This is not just tubular arms with spherical joints, which alone would be a huge upgrade. This is also a setup that's adding in another layer of adjustment for us to be able to dial in the rear grip and the characteristics of the way the car drives. The front angle kit as well. We have way more adjustment, all spherical joints, and way more angle. So this is huge. I am so excited. Like I said, I've become a big fan of Just Engineering after running them on the Vet. Car drives great, tons of adjustment. I could go on and on, but seeing as the car doesn't have any front suspension on it at all, and we've got some serious fabrication to do to develop a steering system for it, we might as well start there. Not to mention, I'm just excited to see how much angle this thing has. That's always been one of the big limiting factors of this car, grip and angle. Get to it. Let's see what this thing looks like with some real suspension on it. Wow, dude, I cannot tell you what this, man. Problem is, I had to saw this bolt out last time because I had gotten a wreck the last time I drove the car and it bent it. But old Benny Boy LaFloyd, oof. Thought I could have used this for mock-up, but shoot, dog. Well, we should have ours today. It actually might be here. I need to go check. I don't know if you can see how bent this bolt is. Oh yeah, you can see that for sure. Basically the tip of it.
Well, as luck would have it,
The replacement bolt I got happened to be bent too. It's pretty common with these bolts because they're so long and supporting load so far out, and just that little bit of bend is enough for it to not go in. I thought it was just being stubborn. Thought it had a little corrosion on it, but basically, we're going to have to kind of Frankenstein together the parts of both of these bolts and try to make ourselves a bolt-like thing to get this suspension on for now while we wait for an actual replacement bolt to get here. So, you know, it happens. And this ain't no go to Ace Hardware, pick one up bolt. This is a very specific, odd kind of bolt. So good thing we got a welder. All right, let's see if our temp bolt works. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Nice. It's funny because since I worked at BC, a lot of people think that I am like a big suspension guy, but to be honest, it's one of my least favorite things to work on. This is the only time I'll say I really enjoy it is when it's a bunch of fresh new parts, and the Just Engineering kits go together really well, so no complaints. The only downside is when we got to use the crusty old, stock parts. The new stuff's nice. I ain't got no problem with that. Well, my dummy bolt worked. At least to get us, squared away for now. We'll just have to hit up old Benny Boy and get a replacement bolt. It's nice to have a friend who parts out Miatas. Makes life easy. He reminded me, I was asking him about the bolt. There's one in the rear that's like similar to that, where if you make any contact, it gets bent, and it's a one-off bolt. Like, you're not going to find that at the hardware store. And luckily, yeah, for sure this kit, no more. But the front, we still got to deal with this bolt here. But aside from that bolt giving us some grief, bolt situation, let me say, everything went on nice and smooth. So yeah, okay, next thing, brakes. Need to get my brakes down. While I was scavenger hunting for my brakes, this is my old kit. So I need to weigh it, but I need to weigh this with the wheel bearing. But anyway, we're definitely shaving a lot of suspension weight, but you can see the stock style Miata wheel bearing is a spindle style, where it slides over with a castle nut. And these knuckles got replaced because my wheel bearings needed to be replaced. These are the old ones, and they were seized onto the hubs. So I decided to swap these to be my spares and get new ones. But that's always been something I've disliked about the Miata, because I was in a pinch getting ready for a race weekend. I couldn't get the wheel bearing off. Whereas now, if we blow a wheel bearing, unbolt it, party on. So it's little things like that that make a really big difference real world. So yeah, just to compare, so you can see, again, this is more street car upgraded suspension. This is proper track car, no holds barred, instead of our polyurethane bushings, which you can see are not in great shape. I've shredded through a lot of these. They also, the control arms want to shift, and there's nothing really besides the lip of this bushing, keeping it from shifting, so mine would shift all over the place. I was so confused for a while because I would notice that the wheel was rubbing the control arm. You can see the marks there, and the inside of the wheel was torn up. Had like this much clearance when you would check it. But once the car got under a ton of load, there was enough deflection in all of this that the wheel would rub the control arm. So now we've got all solid joints, on-car adjustable, spherical bearings for our ball joints instead of stock style ball joints. It's just again, this is a whole nother level of suspension from what this car has had its entire life, really. Again, I could nerd out and go on and on. There's so many little details, but we got to move on. We need to get our brakes on. So, fun fact: these are the same pads that this car started with, like 6-7 years ago, a long time ago. Same pads, probably about due for replacement. But we got to do just a little trimming on our brackets. Where's my mark? You can kind of see it. See what this thing looks like on the ground. I'm so excited. This is just such a big deal. I could go on and on. Jibber jabber. Let's get back to it. Let's get this stuff together. Because we still got a lot to do if we want to make this thing a true roller, you know? And then move on from there. So, let's quit jibber jabber and let's get back to it. So the tricky thing when building a race car is you're using race car parts developed around something, stock stuff, maybe aftermarket stuff, and then other race car parts developed around other stuff, whether it's stock or aftermarket. So for example, this brake kit from V8 Roadsters is developed around stock knuckles, and then the Just Engineering knuckle setup is developed around stock brakes. That doesn't necessarily mean the two are going to coexist peacefully, you know? We got to do... So it's just a little modification. It's just a tiny bit of trimming. I had to do the same thing on the rear way back in the day when I first got this brake kit, and the front's getting its turn. The old router man mill works pretty good. I need to get a real mill ASAP, but one thing at a time. Also, Muteki SR48 lug nuts. Not at all affiliated, but I buy them for everything if they have them for my thread pitch, because these might not have been from the very beginning of the build, but I've had these lug nuts for a very long time, and they've come on and off hundreds of times. All right, moment of truth. Let's see how much. Oh my gosh, that is a lot. These wheels are like definitely on the big side for this. I wonder if I can go that way with this one. No, we're hitting the pinch weld. Obviously that's no steering rack, no tie rods, but still, that is way more angle than this car's ever had. The camber's probably way out of whack now, but I just rough adjusted those. Yeah, it needs more camber. These wheels by themselves might work. The problem is because they're low disc, they're so close to the caliper that we have to run the spacers, and then everything becomes too wide. We'll have to do some clearance in, but one thing at a time. We need to get this dry sump pump reinstalled. It's been off for way too long. It just didn't really fit with the old subframe and mounts, but now it does. So we can see what it looks like complete before we start on the next adventure. Let's call it. Whew, this thing is wide. Oh, those spacers, yeah. But, yeah, dry sump pump back on. That's important because we need to mount the steering rack. And as you can see, this is a V8 Roadster subframe, and they normally come with steering rack mounts, but I asked them to make it without them because fitting this engine in here, you know, it's not terrible. But to get it as low as I wanted, to keep the center of gravity low, and to make, I didn't want this whole intake sticking out of the hood, throttle linkage and stuff. So to get it as low as I wanted, the stock rack is not gonna fit. But I had an idea of using the rack's actually stolen from the RX-7, and the column that we're gonna use is for the jet boat. So I gotta replace them both if they work. But I, might as well see if they work first before buying another pair. So yeah, this is the MB rack. See, it's pretty bulky, and this is a depowered rack. I ran it manual, which I love manual rack on this car. One less system to fail. I like the driver feel. But a manual Miata rack is like $1 gajillion, and they're hard to find. This is a Ford Pinto rack. Very, very popular in drag racing because it's just a factory manual rack. I want to say this thing was like $150 on Amazon. Now, I'll probably get a nicer one for this car for what it's doing, but obviously we got to see if it works. Oh yeah, we can move this. Sick. Pretty cool to see it on the ground. Obviously, it's super wide. Like, it's not going to be this wide, but you just look at it. It's so wide. Oh, yeah. I wasn't planning on running the spacers. Just the face of the wheel, because these are 3-piece wheels. Probably have to try to swap them. I need to go dig out my other fronts that I have for this car. But yeah, let's see if this column fits. That should be about right, because we'll want the joint before the... Oh God, it scared me. Just real quick to give you a comparison while I'm trying to make this whole Pinto rack thing work. So again, this is an NB rack, not an NA rack. They're relatively similar, and it is a powered rack that's depowered. So I had to weld up the joint thing in the middle, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you can see, especially with the mounting style, it is much larger. And if we were to try to use a manual rack, it's still larger than this, and they're like $800 because they're so rare. This I can get on Amazon, like free next day. So yeah, this is also kind of funny, the parts scavenging. So this steering shaft is for the boat, this column for the boat, steering wheel for the boat, this spline to weld for the boat, this shaft for the boat, which it's because I'm putting a micro sprint car rack in there. Steering column deal I have now, I keep breaking them. And I'm doing a whole fancy nozzle, the thing, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm really excited to do that, but these parts are pretty handy at the moment. This steering shaft, RX-7. This steering joint, RX-7. Rack, RX-7. And tie rods, RX-7. And between the parts for the steering systems on both the boat and the RX-7, we might just have everything we need for steering for this thing, which would be great because if we can make this thing steer, it's a true roller. And this is one of the biggest question marks I have left on fitting this engine is the steering situation. When I first started fitting the engine, that was one of my things, like, do I want to deal with the engine being high and make steering easy, or do I want to try to figure this out? And we're at the figure it out stage. So if we can't figure it out, it's going to be A1. Let's get back to it.
To actually see what this thing's gonna look like angle-wise, we had to go to some more logical wheels. So these are the same size actually, 15 by 8. They just don't require a 35 mil spacer. And now we're starting to get the idea. One of the more difficult things in fabricating stuff like this is really just keeping something in its spot while you make whatever you need to make. In our case, we need to make a template to figure out and design our bracket effectively, but I need the rack to be at least roughly in place so I have an idea of what the template needs to be made like. So that's, oh man, I fought with some zip ties for a long time, but we got it roughly in place. Again, just close enough till we can get our first bracket on it, and then we have it spot locked, you know? I thought of about 10 different ways that I could do this bracket, and I was really conflicted on it, but the cardboard template led to something I was pretty happy with. And one thing I ended up doing with this cardboard template, instead of trying to make it all out of one piece to start, I made kind of each difficult area that I needed to get just right, and then put them both together. I think it actually is maybe 3 pieces. There's a lot of pieces to one template, to plasma cut, to now we've got a bent-ish bracket that hopefully fits as well as the cardboard template did. The difficulty with going from cardboard to steel is steel doesn't flex in the same way cardboard does, but it looks like it's gonna fit, so we can go ahead and drill out our holes. If you saw the shop upgrade series, you know that I recently got my first drill press finally, and let me tell you, I don't even have that many holes to drill on this project, of course, but man, I am it's like your first car with air conditioning. That is a terrible analogy.
Nice. Split on.
Now our whole holding the rack in place becomes a lot more critical. It's not just about getting it roughly where it needs to be to come up with a bracket design, but it's got to be exactly where it needs to be so that when we mount it, it's in the right spot. And this is really critical. I mean, this is probably about as critical as it gets on the fabrication, because in drifting, steering is so much of it. And I mean, in any sort of racing, I guess except for drag racing, you don't do much steering there, but steering's important, you know? In drifting, it is probably the most important thing about the way the car feels. So we absolutely have to get this right, is my point. So we got it tacked on, and again, there's no real room for error here. So yeah, the main thing too is that we get it uniform. We get it in line front to back, left to right, up and down, you know, all of that, because if it's crooked or cattywampus in there, we're going to have some weird driving characteristics. So when you're doing 2 mounts, mount number 1 is kind of this is where I'm putting it mount. And mount number 2 is it's got to, match and align with mount number 1. So the point is, mount number 2 here that we're working on is that. And that's one of the interesting things about this rack, the mounting style. I mean, it's somewhat traditional, and they sell kind of weld-on mount deals for it, but, I didn't really plan fully on using this rack. I guess I did. I had time to order it. No excuses there, but, we got the parts, the pieces, the scrap metal. We're making our own. So a piece of tubing and coped to the rack is really all we needed, but we don't want it wedged up against a sharp edge. We need to effectively try to give it a nice soft spot to clamp into. And funny enough, when I was going through my scrap stuff in the shop redo, I almost threw away all these circular cutouts, but it was kind of the perfect base piece to cut to shape, to bend to shape, to weld in here to allow the rack a nice spot to slide into. So it's one of those times where I was really glad I didn't throw something away.
Now I just got to figure out how to make something to bolt on the front side of this. But got it even this way, even this way. Yeah, I just got to weld some dowels and then through bolts, or I could do like a plate that surrounds this. I mean, I could cut a piece of, I don't know how to figure that out. But the shaft's in here and going roughly, up into the general vicinity of where we need it to go. And this is always a problem with headers, is steering shafts, but I kind of need it to be tucked tight to the block, which means we should be able to go, since we shaved the frame rails way back now, basically around it. So the goal would be to be able to remove the header without removing the steering shaft, because I hate having to do that. I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but it's looking good. It's looking good. We're all the way up into here with the steering shaft. And then I just got to see how it all shakes out with the column. And then once that's mounted, column's in, which we'll probably do a temp mount for now. Then the car can steer for the first time since we took it apart, because every time we put this engine in with the old subframe, we had to unbolt the rack and the steering shaft and everything. So like, that's a big deal. Home Depot stuff. That'll work though, I think. So yeah, basically just that. Maybe I'll do that because I can tack it up here. The other hard part is when you're welding small pieces like this. Sometimes when you go to put the rod in, you can accidentally tap them and knock them out of the way. Oh, it's so hard to weld little parts like this. They just want to like skip all over the place. Stop moving. Ah, man. I have the amperage like way too high for how thin this is, but I didn't feel like it. I just forgot. But I was welding something really thick before this. Okay, step one done. I wanted to weld this one first because we can weld it on the bench. That's the worst part too about welding, because you always have to wait for the stuff to cool down and you're like, I want to do something. Oh yeah, we'll just match where they are on this, on there, more or less. Whereas if we weld it on there first, then we'd have to match that here, which would be a lot harder to do, you know what I'm saying? But we gotta let it cool down. It's not beautiful, but it'll get the job done. Yeah, I could cut this shorter. It doesn't have to be this long, but I just like these. I got these like blue Allen bolts, and I just like them. So I try to use them on projects I care about. If it's a project I don't care that much, that's how you know. If I use the blue Allens, I like the project. This is the problem. Like I try to have all the hardware I could need, but like these are probably too long, and then these are probably too short. But it's like you have to have. This is already a lot of money in hardware, you know, to have on hand. I think it makes a huge difference, right? Like if I had to go to the store to get this, that would suck. Oh, okay, yeah, that'll work. Now we gotta let it cool down again. Every time. Gives me time to think about my plan for the rest of this situation here. This is always a good test to see how easy it is to install whatever you just made. I don't love this mount, I'll be honest with you, I'm not. This one I like a lot, this one's good. That one, I don't know. But for now, you know. And if anyone's losing their minds, don't worry. This is how they do this for these racks, I swear. I'd like to make like a fancy billet deal, but I ain't going nowhere. I mean, it's in there. Not the most lovely thing ever. All right, I swapped these out to M8s. It's a little better. I mean, I'm still not absolutely in love with it, but it's really not bad. It's totally fine. It squishes it nice and tight. It's on there. Most of the left to right is through here, this bracket. As you can see, up there, down there. So yeah, now that it's confirmed fit, we've got a nice even gap across, nice even gap here. I measured it. I had it within like a millimeter for a while, and I kept trimming this piece to get it to be right on. So yeah, I'm gonna weld those in, and then we need to start working on the column, tie rods, get it all hooked up, and then we will have steering, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
As I went to weld these in, I realized I should just tack them up a little more. Make them strong enough to where the car will steer, but not fully committed yet, in case we want to change that not so great passenger mount.
That's why I like serrated flange nuts, because you really, most of the time, don't even need a wrench. It bites. Oh! I ain't going nowhere. I gotta say, for as much as I don't love that, I love this. This is, wow. Yeah, so I wasn't gonna weld it all the way out, but I realized in case I need to change something, probably not a good idea, but really cool thing, honestly didn't even notice this. I was building this around where it would fit with the engine, and it is perfectly in line with where the tie rod pickup point is. Normally, you know, you're like that, where it's got to sweep back to get to the pickup point at static no steering, or you're the other way, but it's like dead in line, and angle-wise, with the car up in the air, for it to get to where it's gonna bolt on, it's a perfect match with the control arm. So when the whole car sits down flat, everything should be flat. The tie rod should be flat with the control arm being flat. Now, I wish I could take credit for that, but I cannot, because to be honest, I didn't even think about it. I just, again, I was putting it where it would fit. Another cool thing, I gotta take these wheels off. So these misalignment spacers are meant for just engineering tie rods, which are great, but they're threaded for Miata tie rod ends, which is not what that rack is. These are the tie rod ends for the RX-7. And what do you know? Perfect fit. Oh, so pumped on that. It's a game changer. So yeah, we have that. For the angle kit, these Ackerman pills. So basically, it's where the tie rod pickup point is in relation to the ball joint, which changes how the two wheels steer together. Positive Ackerman, your lead wheel still steers further. Negative Ackerman, your trail wheel steers further, and then zero is, they're both the same. I generally go for about zero, but I'm a setup doesn't matter that much kind of guy, so we're just gonna go center. Oh, perfect. right there. That's the pair of centers. Oh wait, we need 4 though. These wheels are by 8. I think the other ones are too, but it's just the 3-piece wheel thing. They're not designed to clear brakes. Like with no spacer, we got a mile here. Whereas with those wheels, we had to have the spacer.
The only thing that wasn't quite right of this hodgepodge of parts that were not at all for this project was the tie rods were a little too short. So we had to switch to the negative Ackerman setup, bringing the tie rods in to make them shorter, just to make them barely reach. And even still, we're going to have some serious toe in. But it gives us an idea.
All right, this is the real moment of truth to see how far it steers with a steering rack. Obviously, we can't get our tie rods how we want them, but... Oh yeah, that's great news. I was worried that the rack might not have enough travel, and we'll have more angle when it's not towed in. Like this one's maxing out right now, and that one's not. So if you look, because the wheel's towed in, it's hitting here, and maxing out that way, and then this one's not quite to the angle stop. So when they have the correct amount of tow, this one will be turned further, and that one will be turned less. And obviously the different Ackerman. This Ackerman setup will cause the trail wheel to turn further. That's way more angle than this thing's ever had in its life. Look at that, dude. I told Ben about me using this rack, and that was his concern, was that it wouldn't have enough travel. But I measured it, and it's the same amount as the NB rack I had with rack spacers. So it's actually effectively got more. Okay, last thing, steering shaft. We got steering, baby. It's still so funny to me that this is all stuff for the boat. I mean, like the RX-7 stuff, it makes sense, but the boat stuff is just funny. So we've either got to get another one of these wheels for the boat, because I'm excited to use this for the boat, because I can weld the throttle on and I want to powder coat it, or we can do, the Vet has this same 3-volt and then just an adapter to 6-volt. So I can use like the standard sawbelt wheel that I have. I've always been a fan of these dirt track wheels, and they are really light. If we do run one for this car, we'll get it powder coated for sure. This is a big one too. This is like a 15. We officially have steering. I mean, there is one caveat, but like this wheel location is probably a little too close. That's why I only tacked that on, so we can shorten this some, which we can go shorter as is. Yeah, that's definitely too close, I think. I mean, I like a close wheel, but yeah, that's probably too close. Too close. I mean, I am gonna redo this bracket too. I'm not in love with it. I mean, because this bracket was for the stock steering column. I mean, how cool is that? Finally, a steering wheel in this car. Nice lightweight wheel, lightweight column. Look at it from this side. Whew. That is a cool feeling, man. I gotta say, it's hard to explain how big of a deal it is that this car is gonna have steering now, because all the times I've had to move this car around, before ever taking the old subframe out and the suspension off and all of that, we couldn't have the rack in with the motor in, so you'd have to put the front on dollies because the wheels would just go everywhere. Now, good steering. Look at that. Oh, the angle too. Whew. Oh, what a sight. What a sight, man. That feels good. Okay, the one caveat though is we have to get a spherical bearing bolt-in deal and then just make a plate. So that way, effectively, this will go through a spherical bearing, which will hold it tight. That's why I have it zip tied right now, because this is a spherical bearing, so it can move around so you can get your alignment right. But yeah, so column, joint, boom, shaft down, joint number 2. I'm gonna have to chop this set screw down. That thing's way too long. But we've got clearance to our dry sump lines, clearance there. We've got good, the angle's not too ridiculous. We should have good room for building the headers to come out and over and basically just all loop around the steering shaft, which will be great. We got tons of angle. That's a big one. And then our dang rack mounted. It fits. Oh, like I said, just tie rods, which those I think were the shortest ones we could get. So no problem getting longer ones. Wow, what a feeling. So yeah, let's get this thing on the ground. And we got some sunlight. We actually got some sunlight for a minute. It's been raining on and off. Let's go pull this thing outside, see what it looks like in the sunshine. It's been a while. And even when it was last outside, it wasn't really properly on its own because of the steering thing. So it was a big deal for me at least. This is what it's all been for, set this thing on the ground. Dun, dun, dun. Kind of slow. Alright. This thing is officially back on all fours. For the first time in I don't know, a long time. Obviously it's got the toe's even worse when it's on the ground. Oh. But, dang, look at that tie rod angle. That is like what dreams are made of right there. Just the tiniest bit up. Same with the control. The control arm's still actually a little down. I mean, we could bring the tie rod joint down by spacing it down some, but that's freaking beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That is so sick. We got pretty good clearance here. I mean, this is the only thing I don't love about this rack setup is this whole kerbobble thing here, But aside from that, we got pan clearance. We got ground clearance. I mean, might have to build a little mini skid plate for it or something, but we got good tie rod angle. We got really good tie rod angle this way. Perfectly in line with the rack. That literally could not have worked out better location-wise for tie rod alignment. So yeah, let's push this thing outside. Wow. I'm just taking it all in. That's so crazy. Wow, seeing daylight for the first time in a while. Look at that. Would you just look at that? Wow, that's crazy. What a sight. What a feeling, dude, with the dry sump pump on there. Engine, the last time this thing was out here, the engine was just set in there. Now it's fully mounted up, motor plate and mid plate. Transmission's in there, tunnel's done, floor's cut out, frame rails. Wow. Oh, wow. I can't even tell you guys how good this feels. This feels amazing. Gotta take some pictures. Just a quick look before we push her back inside. I think the circle track wheel I think it's gotta stay. It fits the vibes, NASCAR. Oh, man. I mean, I wish I had the correct length tie rods to, so it wouldn't be so towed in, but if it weren't for that, well, and the firewall bearing, we would be straight chilling. Whew. All right, I gotta push this thing back inside. right, well, the Miata is officially a roller. I can't tell you how good it feels, man. I know I said this, sound like a broken record, but dang, it just looks so cool with the column in there. It's really completing the go-kart vibes, you know? Like, this thing is gonna be so light and so rowdy. Just can't wait to get it done. I mean, obviously, I'm always can't wait to get it done, but just having that, getting this thing out in the sunlight, it felt so good. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of the suspension, but I gotta wrap this up because taking that Vady on a little trip, just a quick little vacation, driving vacation. But shout out to Shane, he's over here on his phone. Me and Shane have known each other for like 76 years now, literally 10 years. Funny story how we met, I'll tell you guys next time, but.
Wait, Taylor, I have a question. Where can we catch one of these?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about fishing.
Drop a comment below. Let us know a spot we can catch these.
I'm a boat guy, not a fish guy.
We'll change that.
Maybe. But yeah, anyway, I'll tell you guys the backstory next time, but he helped me out. Tell me to get this done before this trip, so shout out to Shane for helping me make this happen. So anyway, yeah, I think that's it. I'm excited. Once I get back from the trip, I'm getting straight back on this thing because I am eager. I'm itching. Tie rods. We got a lot to do. I mean, but it's going to start coming together really, really quickly from here because a lot of the chassis work was the most challenging part. The only real chassis work we have left is the back half, but that's more fun than anything, than it is crucial, you know? So, and I kind of want, hopefully I'll wait till I get the new subframe for the rear before I put the rear suspension on. It's kind of no point doing it ahead of time, but we'll see. We'll see. There's still some unanswered questions there. But for now, I got to wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.